a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm meteorologist Gabe Maynor, and finally some breaks in those hot temperatures thanks to that rain-cooled air, but luckily some breaks in the hot temperatures moving forward because the atmosphere is shifting. What we're going to be tracking here at the Room to Room Weather Center is going to be a much calmer but much cooler pattern as we head into the extended forecast. Going ahead and tracking those headlines out for you. Let me make sure. Yeah, there we go. So tracking those headlines out, rain chances remain possible but very limited. I know you saw in the headline that we're going to be discussing what those rain chances mean. So 20%. Who's getting the 20%? We'll be looking at that in more detail. Temperatures looking better. We mean better as in cooler over the next several days, and an electrifying day for some. We're going to be taking a look at a video that was submitted by our North Mississippi storm chaser Adrian up there in Iuka. So walking us through what he experienced, and it's pretty loud, so might want to turn the volume down come later on in the show. But definitely going to be an action-packed show, as it was an action-packed afternoon, but finally calming down across the region. Just looking outside, I mean, you can see those cumulus clouds off there in the distance. This live look outside thanks to the North Mississippi Storm Chasers camera. But down around Kosciuszko, we're talking about 90 with feels like values around 106. Shows you how much that humidity is making an impact on that forecast. So we're still experiencing it, should I say, despite those cooler conditions thanks to that rain-cooled air. As we jump over there towards Greenwood, I mean, it's going to be another balmy forecast. 99 feels like 113. Keep in mind, no showers got west of 55, so it was a much drier pattern, and that's why the heat was able to build like it did. 99 degrees, my word. 1 degree away from triple digits. That is insane. But what we're seeing on the Mississippi Live Weather Radar right now, and we're going to loop it back a couple of hours because as we talked about at 5, I mean, that was the activity that we saw. Just plenty of activity, plenty of thunderstorms still happening as that 5 o'clock was starting. But now since dissolved on out, there is still that boundary. And as we take a look right here, that outflow boundary extending from Oxford to Water Valley down there towards eastern Grenada County and east of Kosciuszko. Now, that's where we could see some activity at least try to form. It depends on what latches onto that boundary, what moisture does. I mean, you can see some showers trying up there along the Tennessee state line, but overall should be a much calmer forecast except for down around Aliceville and Knoxville County. That's the last of our showers, and this one taking more of a western approach rather than that southwest. So as we put a storm track on that, trending a bit more west, we're talking probably about 10 to 15 miles an hour. McLeod by about 6:39, and we'll push that further into Macon to give at least a timestamp on this. This would be moving a little bit quicker, so we're going to be talking about 15 to 20 miles an hour. I say you include Macon, and then I just include right on the outskirts. So let's go ahead, carry it all the way through. There we go, 20 miles an hour, Macon by 6:40. So a slow-moving storm, but if this were to last, and you can see that boundary out ahead of it, and since we talked about at 5, whenever that's away from the boundary, starts to weaken out. So we really don't expect this to be too much more long-lived. Putting a 30-minute loop on that, you can kind of see much more action-packed earlier, now starting to split and dissolve, and what's left in Dinsmore will not last for long out away from that boundary. So Macon, more than likely, you're staying dry tonight. And we expect that to be the case for a large part of North Mississippi, except for that boundary, what moisture can latch onto it. Rainfall totals over the last 12 hours. We walked through this earlier, but I just want to go through those rainfall totals again. 2.1 inches around Iuka there in Tishomingo County. Taking a look there towards Amory, just over 3/4 of an inch. Hamilton, same thing, just over 3/4 of an inch. That thunderstorm, although brief there in Union County, did pack a punch. We're talking about a 1/2 inch over about a 30-minute time stamp. West Point, 3/4 of an inch, and the same thing down there towards Knoxville and Lowndes County and Oktibbeha County, but just around 2 inches there towards Aliceville. So There's 45. If you were east of it, that's where it was the active pattern. West was limited to none because of how dry that pattern was. The heat dome still dominating our forecast. So that's why folks stayed dry for the most part in North Mississippi. But as we're talking about, that heat dome shifts, and then we get that low pressure center moving in. That's going to provide some increased rain chances for our Thursday. So overnight, still having those lingering 10% to 20% chances, but really not going to see anything too significant overnight. It's towards tomorrow that we get our next threat of some isolated showers. And the reason why is because you have this interaction down in the Gulf. Been talking a lot about low pressure, high pressure. What does that mean? Well, this high pressure was what was cycling in some of that drier air. So as I, let me get the right thing. As I write out drier out here in the continental air, you basically get some of that drier, warmer air that's seeping into North Mississippi from that high pressure center because it rotates around in that clockwise motion. So carrying some of this air into the North Mississippi, primarily Northwest Mississippi, but then you have the low. And the low has a much different orientation with a counterclockwise motion. And since it's positioned way further into the Gulf than what models were projecting it to, already starting to boost some of that moisture into northeast Mississippi, primarily northwest Alabama, but you can basically see that, and we used a red marker before, we'll do it again, that wall of high pressure, low pressure that's setting up right over the central part of the state. So if you're east of that line, staying on the at least isolated chances overnight. But if you're west, that's where we'll see those dry conditions continue to persist at least into the next couple of hours, into our evening. As we walk through that futurecast, I mean, you'll see how this starts to shift way out to the west by 10 p.m. So a little bit of that moisture at least tries to get into our viewing area once again. But heading into our Thursday morning, that really starts to shift. And by this point, we're in the directly south of North Mississippi. So a lot of that moisture going to start seeping in just a bit more. I mean, just drawing this out for you, compared to where it was here, it does not take much to get it up into North Mississippi whenever it's directly below Mississippi. So carrying that over into the rest of our morning, I mean, it's just going to be that continuing that active pattern, but really increasing in rain coverage by the mid to late afternoon. Hence why chances are what they are. So looking at those chances, I mean, dry through the morning, 20% by 3. So still not overly high on those rain chances, still very limited in fashion, but it's going to encompass the entire viewing area, at least for the threat of those rain chances. So have the rain gear in the back seat just in case. But what we'll all be experiencing where it's drier is 96 degrees, that hot and dry forecast. Once again, a big part of our Thursday. Slightly cooler though, and that's what we'll take, and that cooling trend does continue into Friday and Saturday. One of the things we'll be talking about here in the next 60 is more details on that forecast of what's going to happen into our weekend, how much those rain chances will impact that, and what to expect next week. And honestly, guys, I hope you enjoy the temperatures the next couple of days, because if you thought this week's were bad, it gets worse then. We're also going to hear what's the matter, the latest on that as Matt is wrapping up his trip, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about his experience in Canada. All of that coming up in the next 60.
I was made for this, crawling through the muck to find where the real problems hide.
All this dampness, it's perfect for mold, and that can mean headaches, rashes, even chronic illness for your family.
That's why we offer our Healthy Home 7-point mold inspection, to restore your health by restoring your home.
Focusing on water and mold control from the crawl space to the roof, you can call Absolute Restoration, your local and trusted restoration contractor.
Your family deserves the most beautiful smile possible. At Tupelo Smiles, we use precision dentistry and advanced technology to make visiting the dentist an amazing experience. Relationship-based comprehensive care. Come discover the difference at Tupelo Smiles.
1 in 10 kids vape. Each vape pod can contain the same amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes.
The Health Class Film Guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping.
Got a few minutes?
You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
Hey there, Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon here in Victoria, Canada. We're about to board the ferry and head back to the States. We'll head to Seattle as we go into the latter part of today, and then kind of wrap things up as we go on a travel day for tomorrow. It's been obviously a wonderful trip. We appreciate you kind of following along with us as we have gone through it. Certainly we have enjoyed it, and the longer sleeves. I'm not saying I'm excited about the heat back in Mississippi, but at the same time, I'm excited to be back home and things feel a little bit more like home. Of course, we're in front of the legislative building here in Victoria at this point here, and we're going to go across the street back over to the ferry out of this beautiful harbor to kind of head back over to Seattle. It's just been, again, a great trip, and so many things that we have shown you, we haven't shown you. One of the things I was just so surprised about, so many totem poles here in this part of Canada, and of course the Pacific Northwest as well. One of the things is just when you've been up here, it's kind of been normalized, sort of, that, oh, there's another amazing totem pole that the native First Peoples were involved in making. And so it's just so many cool cultural things that have become the norm of the last week, and we appreciate you coming with us on this journey here. So again, we'll give you a look, I think, over in Seattle as we kind of wrap things up coming up at 10 o'clock. But for Mississippi Live Weather, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon.
Right now, from the Mississippi Live Weather Center, here's meteorologist Gabe Maynor.
Well, Matt, it's going to be a brutal reality once you step out of that plane and feel the thick, hot air that is here in North Mississippi. But hopefully you get some of those not drier conditions. You want some of that rain-cooled air. So hopefully we get some of those showers populating a little bit more of our area come Thursday and Friday. Currently, right now, what we're watching is that shower down there towards Noxubee County. We talked about it dissolving on out, and it's following that same trend since it is further away from that boundary acting as that lifting mechanism. And once these showers get away from it, it just does not produce anything too significant. So that boundary continuing to weaken, and that's where we'll see maybe a few isolated showers try to form over the top of it, but overall, our chances are not high for the rest of our Wednesday. Expanding things out, this is the heart of the moisture, wrapping around a lot of those bands of moisture from that tropical system. Not seeing anything significant develop on the tropical system side, but at least providing us some increased chances of rainfall for our Thursday and Friday, hoping that becomes a bit more widespread, but as of now, models keeping it still pretty isolated. The good thing with it is it's moving a cooler forecast into our area. And so temperature-wise, right now, upper 90s for a lot of locations. That does look better even as we head into our Thursday. Now, the upper 80s, you're not complaining about that at all, especially 81 towards Iuka. I know folks are loving every second of that, and those temperatures continue to drop into the rest of our evening as sunset happens here within the next hour, hour and a half. So those heat alerts that we're experiencing today, those will start to be pushed back just a bit with those cooler temperatures. 8 p.m. expiring on your Wednesday. No, it says Thursday on your screen. There's a reason why for that, because it's being pushed back, but still heat warnings in place for the Delta for your Thursday. But the heat warnings out here in Northeast Mississippi, those are going to expire and transition more into a heat advisory, meaning rather than 110, we're going to be having 105 for feels like values. So for your day planner overnight, I mean, it's primarily going to be those isolated chances that stick around for your 7 to 10 o'clock hour. But overall, although you have the rain gear, it's a best bet to just go into the day thinking, or should I say go into the evening thinking it's not going to hit me because it's so isolated in nature. As we head overnight, though, a much calmer and drier forecast moves in place. So basically, here's the extent of that moisture, just trying to pop up with a few of those boundaries and still along the Alabama state line, primary threat for those showers, and that's where we expect them to occur if they do. But as you can see, still isolated in nature, it's going to be a significant uphill battle with no daytime heating in place. So don't expect anything too widespread. But the dry conditions, you can expect that for your Thursday morning. Commutes should be perfect and good to go. But as we head into that forecast, I mean, it's going to be, this is on top of the rainfall that we have seen. So there's about 1/4 of an inch if those showers were to be produced. As we saw in Iuka, it can be a brief, heavy downpour. So we're getting that with some of these storms if they were to form. But this is honestly a bit of a stretch. And if they were to produce anything, it's a couple hundredths of an inch. So not anything significant for rainfall totals. But let's keep that going and look at rainfall chances for our Thursday, because I've been talking about it all evening with that, at least having some isolated chances. So by 10 a.m., still staying on the drier side, but we transition to lunch and even into early afternoon, and you start to see that moisture move back into the forecast with that southeasterly wind, and a few of those are going to produce some light showers. This is about 3 o'clock on our Thursday, which lines up similarly, there we go, to when we saw it today. Those isolated showers, even a few isolated thunderstorms start to pop up around then, continue into the late afternoon before starting to dissolve as we head overnight. So forecasted rainfall for tomorrow, again, not anything too significant, but encompassing a little bit more of our area than even what we saw today. We're talking 1/10 of an inch for primarily south of 82. Really with this forecast, let me just go ahead and tell you guys the insights. The further south you are, the higher your likelihood because you're closer to that low pressure center. So that's why we see those increased rainfall totals south of 82, but even as far north as Union, Lee, Prentiss County getting some of those showers. So it's going to be a more significant day at reaching more people, but it's not going to be anything too significant for those rainfall totals. Into the rest of our Thursday evening, those showers do try to dissolve on out, but getting a little bit more activity south of 82 with some of that wraparound moisture around that low. But into our Friday morning, dry conditions in place, sunshine comes up, warms us up, and sets the scene for another active pattern towards the afternoon. Now, these chances are increasing just a bit because models are showing at least a higher likelihood for some of these showers to try to be produced. Still a lot of those bands remaining out there towards the Alabama state line, but you can see how these showers and storms start to produce a little bit more west into Greenwood, Grenada, Water Valley, so some higher chances then, and especially continuing into our 10 o'clock hour with those showers and storms still trying to stick around. So an active pattern for the next couple of days, but not overly active, still going to be a very isolated in nature, just encompassing the entire area of North Mississippi. I hope that makes sense. But this is our forecasted rainfall for Friday, and as you can see, isolated chances of about 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch. But overall, the entire area getting higher chances of seeing at least 100 or a couple hundredths of an inch. So that's what we're watching over the next couple of days. But over the next 5 days, here's your rainfall totals, or at least forecasted rainfall totals from the Weather Prediction Center. 1/4 of an inch in a lot of locations, including down there towards Webster, up here in Itawamba, and I would say as far north as the Tennessee state line. But the further south you go, the higher likelihood that you see showers and the higher likelihood you see significant rainfall. Here's a look at forecasted rainfall in the entire southeastern region. As you can see, 1/4 of an inch right around Meridian. You go south of there, we're talking 1 inch towards Hattiesburg. And along coastal regions, we're up to 2.5 inches. So if you want rainfall, go south. But if you want the drier weather, go north. So that's just kind of the give and take that we're talking about. Heat alerts, this is for our Wednesday before they start to be drawn back just a bit. And as we talked about that, heat advisory is going to be in effect for the northeast side of the state, for the northwest side of the state. Heat warnings still in place, unfortunately. I do expect a lot of that to be drawn back for our Friday and not the entire area being under some heat alert. So that is some good news. And you see it right here. I mean, 96 for Thursday, transitioning to 92 on Friday. Some heightened chances, 20 to 30%, possibly even 30 to 40% for our Friday overall. But Saturday, Sunday has shown some drying trends, and that's not a good sign for things going forward. This is kind of our best bet for rainfall, now starting to be drawn back just a bit. Monday really being drawn back on the moisture. As you can see, very little to none when it comes to rainfall, and temperatures increasing as a result. 98 for your Monday afternoon, 99 for Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon, and triple digits going to be in store come midweek next week for a lot of locations. Especially, I mean, since it's reading 99 this far out, we've seen models start to trend up and up and up. So that's something we're watching and paying attention to. But I do want to say we have a lot to still talk about because we have a great shot of the lightning that happened down over towards Iuka. And we also have a great shot of someone experiencing that lightning. Yes, Adrian, I'm talking to you with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. So stay with us here in the next 60 seconds. And we'll be talking a little bit more about lightning, what it does, why it happens, and real-time experiences as well. So stay with us here at 60 seconds.
At Room to Room, did you know our specialty is custom ordered upholstery? Get the furniture you want and the fabric and color selection you want. With our free design service, we won't let you make a mistake.
When people are fed, futures are nourished. They can connect with the world around them, unlock endless possibilities, and thrive. Join the movement to end hunger. Volunteer. Advocate. Donate. Go to feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
So that was our Adrian with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers out in the field there in Iuka, getting some video over there in Walmart. Not expecting lightning to hit that close at a Walmart, but I mean, that was way too close for comfort. So Adrian, I hope you stayed safe. From what I've talked to him, I think he's in good condition, but you know, he loves storms, so that's just in his element. Taylor there in Iuka, also a little bit close for comfort. This was over at the Iuka Cross, just a great shot of God's power in full effect with that lightning happening in the distance. Some great shots of cloud to cloud lightning, cloud to ground off there in the distance, and even cloud to ground, should I say, way too close for comfort. Another shot that was submitted, I mean, this is right behind the cross. I mean, it's showing Who's it from? Who's the power from? Well, it's from God himself, because that's the only man that can control our weather patterns here in Mississippi, right? But let's go ahead and talk about lightning a little bit more in detail, because I feel like this is something that, we can all learn from. So setup. Warm air rises and that produces storm clouds. I mean, that's a typical summer pattern where we have the hot, moist air, thunderstorms occur. So whenever that happens, we start to get collisions of ice particles way high up in the atmosphere and water droplets that are also in the cloud. You can see the water droplets falling because it has been, melted into those water droplets, and then the ice crystals still rising high up into the cloud. Those start to connect, and then they'll start to make different charges. We're talking about positive and negative charges. Well, whenever the charges happen, they're actually split. Positive charges way high up in the cloud and negative charges down there towards the bottom of the cloud, and usually what we call the LCL, or the lifting condensation level, where the base of the cloud forms. And the ground, as you can see, has positive charges as well. So as we know, negatives are attracted to positive, and so that's where we'd expect that cloud to ground lightning to be, is through those negative to positive charges. So that's what we call the energy from the negative charge meets a leader from the positive and then connects, and that's how we get a strike. But you also notice a term that we call cloud to cloud. And since we have negative and positive charges within the cloud, that's how that occurs. And that's usually what we call a light show in the sky. That's usually due to cloud lightning, or at least lightning that we could at least watch because it's not reaching the surface, right? Well, then we get a positive strike. And I'm going to move over here because the positive strike, it can occur from the storm anvil and meet the ground where it is negatively charged, because we do have some negative charges on the ground. Those strikes are way more powerful and also a little bit more significant, because that's typically where we get some damage that occurs, or it can be kind of out of the blue, just not really expecting it. So that's that positive to negative charge that just kind of surprises us. That's why we still need to be aware, even if a thunderstorm is about 1, 2, 3 miles away. But whenever we're looking at lightning safety, that's what we were talking about, not being too close. And Taylor, Adrian, I know that you guys were just trying to snap some shots, but you definitely got a little too close for comfort. So the term is, when thunder roars, go indoors. We know that, we've heard it since we were a child, but the thing is, lightning can strike miles away from the parent storm. As we talked about, with the anvil of the cloud expanding out, this is a very mature thunderstorm, might I add, but when the anvil expands out, you get those positive charges that connect to negative leads on the ground, and then that's where we can get that bolt out of the blue that has been termed pretty often. So also a big part, stay away from water. We got some pictures submitted down at the beach, some folks down at PCB over at Gulf Shores, and I'm thinking the whole time, it's like, don't stay near that water. You want to be out of the water, because that water basically spreads across the entire surface. And so if you're in the water at any point and that lightning strikes close enough, it's going to impact you just as the same as if you were directly struck. So that's going for water, wet items, and metal objects. And so that cross, while it was a great sight to see, I just realized it looks like I'm getting struck right now. I'm going to stand over here. It's not a good example. So whenever we were looking at that cross, and Taylor, thank you again for submitting that picture, that cross is a high metal structure. And so whenever that takes place, you have a tall object, you also have a metal object that attracts that lightning. So of course it's going to be more conducive to have some of that lightning right over the top. So we're also talking about avoiding open fields, the top of hills and ridges, trees, and other tall objects like a cross. And so not being near that, especially, metal objects as well, just being able to avoid that, we can definitely be on the safer side. So of course, reason why lightning is of course hotter than the surface of the sun. I'm going to stand over here and you can see that temperature, 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So when we say when thunder roars, go indoors, it's exactly what we mean. It's just because we don't want you to experience this. We want you to be on the safe side. So avoiding all of that, just staying, in your house, you're going to be okay. So with those isolated chances through the evening, not expecting any thunderstorm activity, but more thunderstorm activity for tomorrow. So when you hear that thunder roars, go indoors, just to be on the safe side. But enjoy this evening. It should be a much calmer forecast, in some places cooler. Iuka, you're having like low 80s right now. That is a great forecast, thanks to that rain-cooled air. More of that expected tomorrow, and we'll be tracking the latest runs on those showers, and of course the latest runs on temperatures, hopefully drawing back just a bit on next week. But if all else fails, let's just enjoy the cooler temperatures this weekend. We thank you so much for joining us tonight on Mississippi Live Weather at 6. We hope to see you again for Mississippi Live Weather at 10. We're going to walk through some of your quotes again, because there were too many to put, and so many good ones that we want to include. So we're going to do another edition of that. If you have any more quotes, go to my Facebook, meteorologist Gabe Maynor, put those in, give it a follow, all that. So we appreciate you guys so much. We will see you back here tonight at 10.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. You know, we knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lawpon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lawpon has proven himself trustworthy.